Welcome to this lesson on the dynamic retrospective. A dynamic retrospective is an always on feedback loop for the team. And you don't wait until the end of a phase or a project, you're continuously gathering feedback when it happens. So it's nice and fresh and in some cases more actionable for the team. And it follows these three simple steps. You get the feedback, you prioritize it, and then you take action. So very similar from any other retrospective, but the difference here is you want to be gathering this feedback much more dynamically, not waiting till the end of a sprint or the end of a phase or end of a project, where in some cases frustrations can build up and you may have a new problem because they've had to deal with that problem for far too long. And by the time you talk about it, it's too late. Someone's had enough or it's turned into something else. So it has a compounding effect. So setting up a dynamic retrospective, you need to create an accessible board for the team. So that could be in Trello or Teams with simple swim lanes. So it needs to be a tool that's the team are familiar with and it's easy to access. It's not something that's a bit of a pain and lots of opt-ins and things like that. And at any point, a team member can feedback whether that's an improvement or to stop something that just simply hasn't worked. And you regularly encourage the team to review and vote on their top three. Well, it really depends on how many you have in there. If there's not that many in there, then it's just like, right, just pick your top, what your number one priority right now, because it's really important, the voting element of it. Because without voting, then you're basing the changes on potentially your own opinion or just one individual's opinion, which isn't always great. You always want the team to be able to feed into it. And you always want to appoint an owner. And in most cases, over time, once you have this running, more team members will start to volunteer, but don't fall into the trap of if you're a project manager of just going, I'll do it, because project managers naturally do that, but it's not always the best person to do it. So think carefully about how you get volunteers for the work. And the approach is asynchronous. So you don't need to schedule an entire team meeting to talk about this. And if you're not familiar with that term, it essentially means it's like if you're working remotely and you're working with a team in Australia and you're based in the UK, you send messages knowing full well you're not going to get messages back until that night when you're asleep, but that's fine. And it's messages in that way. So you can just put feedback in there at any time, but you're not going to be sat there waiting for someone just to come back to you and reply straight away. They might, but people pick it up in the times that make the best or most sense for them. So this is what a board can look like. Obviously, this is in Trello. Got new feedback that's dropped in. Then you've done some voting, so it's been prioritized. And then once it's had that owner assigned to it, so it moves to in progress, done. Then you might have some things that are parked because rather than it just sitting in new feedback or prioritized, actually, this is one we want to discuss in a full team retrospective. It's a really big challenge. We don't have the answers for it right now. So this approach works better for generally smaller changes and improvements, not the really big stuff, but you still can, because it's still a good way to track it. And it doesn't mean you can't have a really big change in the in progress, but sometimes if nothing's going to happen on it, put it into parked with a good reason. Just otherwise, the frustration could build up again that why has this one just been sat here for so long? What does the project manager do with all this? So the responsibility of the PM in this approach is to facilitate the board and the process. Like you would with any other project management process, you are often the facilitator, ensuring things are happening, giving people the right environments and the tools, etc., they need. So as an example I've put in here, at the end of stand-ups or weekly status meetings, give the team quick reminders like, have you reviewed the board this week? Have you voted on any of the feedback added this week? And we need an owner for X action, any volunteers. And that's it. It's really, really simple. And that's the point of it. If you complicate things like this, add too many steps into it, then it won't happen because people are busy. So keep it as simple as possible. And it does take time. So be patient with it. people won't pick it up straight away. And then as soon as people start to get in that habit and know when there's a problem, then they'll start to add it to the board. And then you get a bit of a flow and it starts working in that way. And you don't necessarily always have to solve everything just directly in the board, because if you're still having face to face or remote retrospectives, then if you have one and you've got some things that haven't been discussed but are on the board, take them into that retrospective and discuss them. It's not like a completely separate process, but it works really well to help prevent the build-up of frustration with the team. And hopefully, you capture more and more problems, things that you can fix, and ultimately you have a happier team and more successful projects because of it.